Tons of NASCAR news to react to today. Noah Gragson is returning to JRM for at least one more season. Spire reportedly is purchasing a charter just weeks after selling two charters, and we're about to see the next gen car race in a pack for the first time ever. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Back home finally, but only for a quick pit stop because I'll be flying out to South Carolina this weekend for the Darlington triple header Xfinity Trucks and Cup playoff race for the Truck Series, the playoff opener for the Cup Series, also the Southern 500, one of the quieter, lesser known crown jewel races. Excited to cross that off my list, as well as the Xfinity race Saturday night. They inch closer and closer to their 2021 playoff season, but I will be there in person. I'll actually be set up outside the track at the NASCAR pole position tent from 11 a.m. to noon, both Saturday and Sunday. We'll be giving away some cool sponsor swag, some cool Out of the Groove stuff as well, but I'll be hanging around, so if you want to come say hi, I will be there. I hope to see a whole lot of y'all out at Darlington this weekend, but before we can talk about Darlington, we have a ton of NASCAR stories to react to. This week has been busy. Things kicked off when Tommy Joe Martins and Cesar Baccarella announced earlier this week that they are combining forces to form Alpha Prime Racing, an all-new NASCAR Xfinity Series team. The car is going to run full-time next season. Tommy Joe says he's going to run about 10 to 15 races as the driver. Baccarella is going to run some races as the driver, but the most interesting part of their announcement earlier was that young ARCA prospect Rajah Caruth, who's been on the show many times. We did some live streams last year during the pandemic. Rajah Caruth will make at least 3 Xfinity Series starts next year. They have Martinsville, Dover, and Richmond currently scheduled, with the possibility of adding a few more races. This year, Rajah's in the ARCA East Series. He also announced this week he will run full-time in the main ARCA Menard Series next season for Rev Racing. Very exciting stuff. Rajah Caruth is a good dude. The confidence is there. He knows what he is doing. Next year is going to be a huge step in his development process. That Tommy Joe Martin, Cesar Baccarella, the Alpha Prime Racing entry, it'll still be the number 44 car. They say they aim to take a competitive step forward from Tommy Joe Martin's Motorsports team this year. This year, Martin's Motorsports, they're like a 15th to 20th place car most weeks. Maybe next year we see them contend for a top 10 from time to time. We'll see what Rajah Caruth can do at those short tracks plus Dover that he's currently scheduled for. But that was some exciting news earlier this week. I think it's great. Rajah's a good dude, good personality. He's young. Give him some more laps. Give him some time to develop, to learn, to practice. I think it's great. Go for it. Now, the big news at the end of last week was that Kurt Busch is going to 2311 next year. He will be their second full-time driver alongside Bubba Wallace. I did a short live reaction video at the racetrack that hopefully many of you guys saw. As I said in that video, as I've said in videos previously, I think it's a great move for 2311. Kurt Busch is a veteran driver, a championship driver. He's maybe past his prime from a driving talent perspective, but he's still very good. Made the round of 8 last year. He's in the playoffs again this season with Chip Ganassi, but he is going to be an incredible resource for that team. The one big thing 2311 Racing was missing this season was experience. The team kind of got formed last second. They were scrambling at the beginning of this season to just get cars out on the racetrack. A lot of the guys they had working there were from Levine Family Racing, which frankly has never been a competitive team ever. So while they had the funding from sponsors, while they had the Toyota support, they had a decent driver in Bubba Wallace, and Mike Wheeler's been around, a veteran crew chief. The big thing they were lacking was experience across the board. Kurt Busch brings a ton of knowledge and experience to that team next season, so I'm really excited to see how this jumpstarts 2311's operation. But there was some other news last week that I didn't talk about in that short video that I just want to mention briefly. Last week, the Charlotte Business Journal reported that 2311 Racing actually purchased 15 acres of land in Huntersville, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, for $3.7 million, land that is expected to be developed into the future 2311 Racing headquarters. And actually, Denny Hamlin was asked about this purchase at Daytona this weekend, and Bob Pockrass asked if the goal is to move in by 2023, and Denny Hamlin said it might be later than that just because of how long it's going to take to build the kind of facility they want to build. But the next few years down the line, the 2311 Racing will likely be moving into a state-of-the-art brand new shop, likely big enough to house 3 or 4 full-time teams, even though next year they'll only have 2. But that is exciting stuff. They did not announce any new charters or anything like that. They're still looking for that second charter, although reports suggest they are very close to finalizing a deal to acquire at least one of Front Row Motorsports charters. We'll keep close tabs on that in the coming days and weeks. But that's the latest from 2311. 311. Talking about charters, yesterday, Starcom Racing reportedly sold their one and only charter. I saw this first reported by Chris Knight from Catch Fence, but yes, Starcom, the 00 team, who I believe are last in owners' points among full-time teams so far, they are reportedly selling their charter, and according to a few various reports, I saw Chris Knight, I saw Bob Pox, a few others talking about it, it looks like Spire Motorsports will buy the charter, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, considering that earlier this summer, Spire sold 2 of their charters. Remember, Spire owned 3 charters coming into this season. They sold 2 of them for next year to Colleague Racing. Spire said then, we're gonna focus our efforts on the 7 car, we're gonna be a single car team, hopefully improve with Corey LaJoie. So they sold those 2 charters just a couple months ago, but now they're buying one back. I mean, it's not the same charter, they're buying Starcom's charter, but I don't really, what's going on? I don't really understand this from a business perspective. Maybe they sold those 2 charters for Colleague for a lot of money, and maybe they were able to get a lowball offer in on Starcom, so maybe that's what's happening here, but still, it's surprising for sure. It has not been confirmed, Spire has not confirmed it, Starcom has not confirmed it either, but if it does in fact turn out to be true that Spire is buying Starcom's one and only charter, well, firstly, that's probably goodbye to Starcom, at least as a full-time team. But secondly, that means 2 full-time Spire cars. Who gets that second ride? Will it be a full-time single driver? Who knows? Who knows? How does this change Spire Motorsports' plans for next season? I don't know. That's shocking to me. I'm okay with it. I mean, no disrespect to Starcom, but they weren't going anywhere with that team. And Spire, at least, is talking a big game, talking about getting more and more competitive. And we saw like this last weekend at Daytona. They gave Corey LaJoie a very sporty race car. So Spire seems to be a team that's slowly trending, positively trending towards being more competitive. We'll see if the next gen helps them out. Starcom has been floundering since they got into the Cup Series. In fact, they've even declined the last couple of years since they let Landon Castle go. So honestly, the fan in me doesn't mind seeing another Spire car out there compared to another Starcom car. Man, imagine saying that 2 years ago. You've been laughed off the stage. But Spire seems to have some ideas. Definitely some weird news if it turns out to be true. Spire buying Starcom's charter. Okay. Let's talk next gen some more for just a moment. Yesterday I saw reported by Jim Utter from motorsport.com that the next gen car will be tested at Daytona this next week. Did I say car? I meant cars. 8 next-gen cars will be on track at Daytona next week for a Goodyear tire test. Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Joey Logano, William Byron, Cole Custer, Ross Chastain, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will be the drivers. It's a Goodyear tire test, but NASCAR will also be looking at a few other things. How are the cars going to handle in a pack? Because we have never seen more than 2 next-gen cars on track at the same time. They'll also be gathering data on the speeds they hit while in the pack, the closing rates. This is exciting stuff. Now, I don't think there are going to be a whole lot of cameras there, so I don't know how much footage us at home are actually going to get to see, but this is exciting. Sure, it's just a super speedway, but next-gen cars drafting, not to mention these are cars that have been built by specific teams. Like I mentioned, all those drivers, Joe Gibbs Racing, Penske, Hendrick, RCR, they're all sending their own drivers in their own next-gen, their own built next-gen cars. Remember, teams began receiving the parts and pieces to assemble next-gen cars at the end of July or mid-July roughly. The timeline's a little muddy. So they've been working for the last month and a half to build these cars. Now we will get to see them in action. So that's some pretty exciting stuff if you ask me. I hope we get to see some footage. Again, it's a test. Nobody's gonna be pushing that hard. They're not gonna be trying to pass each other. So we're not gonna be able to make too much of this test just watching it with the naked eye. The data NASCAR and Goodyear gather behind the scenes may tell a more complete story, but still exciting that next-gen cars, multiple of them, will be on track in less than a week. I think if I were to try and gauge the overall confidence people have in the next-gen car, I think when it comes to the next-gen car at road courses, people are extremely confident. Drivers, fans, members of the industry, executives, everyone's very confident in this car's ability to run well at road courses. And I think short tracks, short ovals, I think also very confident. I think intermediate tracks, that confidence goes down quite a bit. The cars are more symmetrical, which means likely less dependence, less reliance on side force. Means the cars are gonna be a little more unstable, a little harder to drive, but there are still tons of questions about aero, about horsepower, et cetera, how all the new mechanisms are actually gonna feel in the car. We've seen drivers spin out in tests. William Byron spun out. Christopher Bell admitted earlier this week that he spun out recently during the Bristol tire test. So these cars are harder to drive, hopefully for the right reason. So I think the confidence at intermediates is somewhere in here. Super speedways are completely different beasts. So we'll hopefully get some information, get some interesting sound bites next week. But now let's talk silly season for just a moment. Noah Gragson, the polarizing star for junior motorsports, and I think I can classify him as a star. Maybe not superstar. I don't think I can call anyone who hasn't won a race this season a superstar, but he's a star. He's going to be in the playoffs this year. He won 2 races last season. Yesterday, Junior Motorsports announced that Gragson will return to the team for 2022. Bass Pro Shops, Black Rifle Coffee are returning as well. He will once again be in the 9 car. This will be his 4th full-time season at JRM, and their driver lineup is beginning to take shape and is becoming very, very interesting. Right now, JRM has confirmed that Josh Berry, Sam Mayer, and Noah Gragson will race full-time next season. I think most people expect Justin Allgaier to return, although that has not yet been confirmed, but he brings funding. He's a veteran. He's very talented. He's a championship threat every single season, so he is likely to return. I think the biggest question mark is with Michael Annett. He's a veteran, but he has not accomplished a whole lot during his time in the Xfinity Series, but he does bring some funding, some very much needed funding. But now with Michael Annett, health has become a concern. He's missed several races this summer due to a leg injury. He's re-aggravated it. Even at Daytona this past weekend, he raced, but after that 15-lap stint Friday night, there were quotes that he was complaining that it was sore, more sore than he thought it would be. He still came back out Saturday and finished the race, ran the whole race, was even caught up in a wreck, unfortunately. But I think that lingering injury is why we have not heard yet whether or not Annett will return to JRM next season. I think Michael Annett probably wants to keep racing. I think Junior Motorsports, as long as that car is fully sponsored, is more than happy to put him in that seat. But if that leg injury continues to bother him, if there's a real possibility he'll have to sit out multiple races again next season, which jeopardizes his playoff chances for the 2nd year in a row, at that point, maybe Junior Motorsports would choose to go in a different direction. Now, Dale Jr. said a couple weeks ago that he's fine running 5 full-time Xfinity cars. You know, in the Xfinity Series, there's no cap on the number of cars you can run. You can run more than 4. I think if sponsorship is there, Dale Jr. is happy to have 5 full-time drivers next season, but Michael Annett's injury might alter those plans a little bit. So we'll see. I hope he's able to recover. He's still very much in playoff contention this season, but things need to turn around quickly, and those races he had to miss are likely the difference maker at this point. Now, I got sidetracked a little bit. Back to Noah Gragson. Every NASCAR fan has a strong opinion on Noah Gragson. I like Noah Gragson a lot. I think he's a fun personality. I think he's got some talent. He's put on a show at Homestead, Miami the last couple of years. That's a tough track to succeed at. He's been strong, but he also drives me up a wall sometimes with some of his antics on track and off track. Noah Gragson, I have a love-hate relationship with Noah Gragson. I think that's safe to say. But that being said, I'm very happy to see him returning to the 9 car next season. He's 23 years old, so he's a little older than a lot of other prospects in recent years, but I'd still consider him to be young. He still has a potentially long NASCAR future ahead of him. Noah Gragson is in the middle of a bad season for JRM. Yes, he's going to make the playoffs, but 0 wins. His average finish is like 6 positions worse this year than it was last year. I read you guys the numbers a couple weeks ago. Last year he had 2 wins and an average finish of 8.8. This year it's 0 wins and an average finish of 14.8. So this year has been a struggle compared to last season especially. But that's why I want to see him come back next year. I want to see if Noah Gragson can show resilience, if he can bounce back in a big way. I know this season's not over. He could still light a fire and go crazy and win a bunch of races at the end of this season. I don't think that's likely, but assuming this season kind of ends the way it's gone so far, I want to see Noah Gragson come back next year. I want to see if he can show the mental toughness, if he can take the pressure that's on his shoulders and thrive. I think that would tell a lot about a young driver's character if they're able to bounce back in a big way after a struggle of a season the way this year has been. That's why I want to see Noah Gragson come back next year. I think it's good for the sport if he succeeds, and the fact that Junior Motorsports was also able to find seats for Josh Berry and Sam Mayer, I think that's great, because I will be honest, if forced to choose between Sam Mayer full-time or Noah Gragson full-time, I might go Sam Mayer, even though he may not bring a lot of sponsorship. Between Noah Gragson and Josh Berry, I'd probably go Josh Berry, even though he's a little older. He's clearly a short track ace, and with the playoffs the way they are, all you need is 1 win. Good chance Josh Berry's going to win a short track race and get you in the playoffs every year. So I'm not going to lie to y'all, Noah Gragson is not the most exciting young driver at JRM right now, but he is still exciting. And I want to see how he responds next year after the adversity he's faced this season. Can he show that mental toughness, that maturity? That's what I'm interested to watch for. So I'm happy Noah Gragson is returning next season. We'll see how he does. Hopefully he builds on this season or improves from this season. Leave a comment down below. Do you think Noah Gragson is deserving of a 4th or 5th JRM ride? Let me know what you think of the upcoming next gen test, Tommy Joe Martins, Raja Karuth announcement, charter drama with Starcom. We talked about an awful lot in this video. Leave a comment down below, share your thoughts. I look forward to reading them, but that's all I've got for this episode. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR day in and day out, news, rumors, predictions, race recaps, and much, much more. We have a lot of content coming your way here in the next couple of days. As always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I couldn't do this show without your tremendous support. Like I said, a lot of videos coming your way in the next 48 hours or so. Got some stuff from Daytona that I gotta finish editing. Got a live NASCAR Weekly podcast tonight on this channel that if you're watching this shortly after it comes out, be sure to tune in tonight. I will see you all at Darlington this weekend. Have a fantastic rest of your day, y'all, and I will see you in the next video.